Immortality, in terms of superheroes and comics, is one of the most popular topics. As stated by CBR.com, Immortality is rated as number 13 out of 30 for the most popular superhero powers. But I have believed for a while now that immortality, when you look at it realistically, that its philosophical founding is essentially not even there, and that immortality is a false hope that we put so much praise upon for such little. Let's get into it. So, immortality, first of all, does not mean invincibility. Just because you are immortal, able to live for eternity, doesn't mean that if you get shot in the face, that you're now just, oh, I'm fine, I'm eternal. That doesn't mean anything. Immortality just means that with age, you basically have, you just don't die, essentially. You can reach like 1,000 years into this life, but then a single bullet could probably just kill you instantly. The second one, and the most popular for me, is that even if you age forever, I don't think that the skin that you take on or the organs that you have will just not, they'll just stop, like they'll just stop or aging at all. Because when I think of immortality, all I think of is that you yourself are becoming aged essentially for like 1,000 years. But what I think in theory would happen if we were actually immortal is that, our organs would fail, our skin would just peel off, our muscles would become mush. That is until the point where you're just rubble, and that everything that you were, you just essentially are a big blob of just whatever. And then, of course, with that, I think controversially that the brain would just rot, therefore you would just die. And therefore, immortality never exists to begin with. And the thought of immortality, from a realistic standpoint, would essentially just die. It would die right there. Because we would know at a specific time that once we are all mushy and then our brain just rots away too much, that we're just dead. We're not even alive no more. Now you might argue, saying, well, if immortality isn't just essentially having everything up to standards, then basically there's, like, I think that you're wrong purely because of the fact that your organs just wouldn't fail. Your organs wouldn't age at all, therefore they wouldn't wear and tear. And you could be right on that part. My problem with that is that the aging process of a normal human being, one's liver could fail at like 30, while someone's liver could just still be up and healthy at the age of 80 or something. Just because organs aren't. Just because organs can age with you doesn't mean they're gonna have the same quality, the same quantity, and essentially all that you're working up to with your organs, your your body's going to adapt to that. So if you're living hypothetically for 1,000 years or so, then wouldn't you think that for those 1,000 years that you couldn't have just drinking a bunch of alcohol that you think is meaningless, but then it just ends your life because your liver now fails? That's the point I'm trying to make. Just because you live for 1,000 years doesn't mean that you're immune to having any of your organs just start to not work whatsoever. And we think of old aging in human terms as wrinkly, as less brain power, less physical force that we put into anything. So wouldn't you also think by the age of 1,000 that things like that and like other things that you would assume of it, putting on a pedestal, heart failure more than not, and breathing problems, would just be like 10 times worse than someone who's 100 in human years? Because the way that it seems, people who are immortal and people who have reached the age of 1,000 would then at that point just not be able to live anymore. They would be much, much worse than the average human because of the quality of their internals being worse than not. Because, again, because we age doesn't mean that we are immune to the outside affecting us, like taking too much sugar or something. Like, it doesn't remove any of that fact. Now, the final one that I want to put in here, which is the most popular theory for why immortality is bad, is obvious. If you live forever, you see so many things that you would never want to see in your entire life. AKA, like, if I live for 1,000 years, what are the chances that there's gonna be, like, 5, 6 world wars, like a couple famines, bunch of riots and hate and everything? You just wouldn't want to see that. And especially if you make it to the, like, way, way in the future where literally the sun is going to explode. No, knowing that you're gonna reach that is horrible. That is a horrible feeling to have. To know that you're just gonna die, essentially, just because you lived for too long, you know? And many of the things that you can see wouldn't be seen if you just died properly. If you didn't age, then you would just see more. But if you did age, and you just died like a normal human being, essentially you just save yourself from so much mental anguish, so much peril from what you were able to see once you go into the future. That is all the points I have. Am I right? Am I wrong? If you like these types of content where I sit down and become metaphorical, check out the playlist right here to be able to see more just in depth. Most of them are just self-talk. So if you don't like that, go to the gaming section so you can just have some fun. But I hope you have a good day.